everybody, I'm Tommy, and you are on the boat. What's happening, people? So, I know that not everybody is following this case, but I can promise you that everyone is going to be following this case. This is the David and Celeste murder case. Boy, I said murder in the first 40 seconds, man. That's a wrap right there. Lisa Trimble, good to see you. Hello, Joanne Marie. Love this title. Not that it's always a bad thing, but you forgot the subtitle. Snitches get stitches. You know what? I should have done that. Kristen Melinda, good to see you. What's that? They get ditches inside. Outside, they just get stitches. Taylor Miller, good to see you. Hey, John. Crucial Flow Research. Good to have you here. Thank you. Welcome aboard to you as well. So here's the deal. This is a case that I did a show on a while back. I may have done 2 shows on this already. And in all of them, I said, there's not a lot to talk about, but there's going to be. Brock Bandy, good to see you. We know that a grand jury has been impaneled. We know that that grand jury is an investigative grand jury. They lied to us. It's not just an investigative grand jury. They did. They did. They lied to us. It's not just an investigative grand jury because they brought in some heavy hitters, right? They brought in a woman named Beth Silverman. Did a little background diving into Beth Silverman, and she is the kind of prosecutor that they put on a case that's difficult to prosecute. The really complicated, really sort of high-tech cases that are hard to get stuff done. She's the person you bring in. Aspire to inspire. Good to have you here. Hey, Kristen Melinda. Brock Bandy, what's happening? Yeah, exactly, Johnny Scoville. If you're a criminal, this isn't the kind of person you want brought in on your case. And to bring her in during an investigative, see what I did there? I did. Investigative grand jury, it usually means that there's a little more going on than that. Hey, Mo, what's happening? Good to have you here. This is not good news for D4VD or whatever the hell he calls himself. David is the guy's name. Now, if you're absolutely new to this, I'll give you a little bit of background, right? Let's do a little bit of that. So this is what we're talking about. If you're brand new to this, let's see if we can get you up to speed, at least to some degree. This lovely person right here, her name is Celeste. Her name was Celeste. Pardon me, people. Sorry. Her name was Celeste. She was reported missing from her house in Lake Elsinore, California. And a lot of people, including relatives, said she was with a guy named David. He might have been in the music business. Now, David has said, no, I don't. In the beginning, he did that. Who are you talking about? Unfortunately, he took a lot of photos. So that's David right there with that thing between his eyes that kind of looks like a scratch off on a lottery ticket. I don't know exactly what that is, but that is your boy, right? And he got famous making music for the genre of gaming. So somehow, Johnny Scoville, this is a way to make a living these days because his net worth is about $3 million, allegedly. Of course, we don't know how many people he's paying for lawyers for. But this is the girl that is missing. And when you look at her, I'll be really honest, I'm not being Glenn Quagmire, but she doesn't look like she's 14 years old. And that, I think, probably made it a lot easier for this guy to have her around without people thinking, good Lord, what are you doing with a child?
She regularly claimed she was a college student.
She did claim that she was a college student. However, there's a lot of stuff coming out that he most assuredly knew how old she was. And not only do they know each other, Johnny Scoville, but on their 18th birthday, they got matching tattoos. Boy, it's tough when you have a matching tattoo from a person that you say you don't know. But the reason that we're here today talking about this case and starting to get everybody up to speed is because during the grand jury, a lot of people didn't participate. They refused to show up. Right now, if you do that, by the way, you can do that. But if you refuse to show up, they can attach a body to it, right? What that basically means is they're going to arrest you, right? They're going to make sure that you come in and talk. And this is one of those gentlemen right here.
Grand jury bench warrant.
Yeah, bummer, right? This is Neo Langston. Now, Neo Langston sometimes goes by the name Neo the Asian. Is that a racism? Is that a racism? Can I say that?
If he says it, it's not. If you say it.
So I sound racist. Yeah, I sound racist just saying it. But he goes sometimes by Neo the Asian. And according to, like, if you look up the bio information on this and you just do you don't bother to actually do a deep dive and you just go with what everyone else is saying. He's a kind of a big time streamer, and that's how he makes his money or whatever. Now, I don't know about. Yeah, here's the deal. He streams exclusively on Twitch. Now, he hasn't put anything up since mid-July, right? He has 4,400 followers. And to be really honest with you, I've done more watch time in the last 2 weeks, and I'm a teeny-ass YouTube channel, but I've done more watch time in the last 2 weeks than this dude's done since he started streaming. He's not big in terms of streaming. In fact, By all accounts, I don't care what metric you look at, he's made somewhere in the ballpark of $1,000 to $5,000 as a streamer. That's a tough way to pay your bills, man. Tough way to pay your bills. I'm 33 and people think I look 15, so she definitely looks 15. Yeah, she definitely looks underage to me.
He just wants to be a streamer. $1,000 he's made?
Yeah, he's made $1,000. Yeah.
Won't quit his dragon?
No. He's sticking with it. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. Good to have you here. So here's the deal on this one. This is the history of this case is unusual, right, to say the least. And there's a lot of stuff that has made it seem a little bit more unusual. In September of 2024, Celeste's body was discovered in a Tesla, in the trunk of a Tesla. There's been a lot made about the fact that she was decapitated. According to all of the reports coming out now, that's not the truth. Her head, Johnny Scoville, was still attached. The rest of her body was not. By all accounts, her limbs had been removed, right? She had been dismembered, but they had not removed her head.
They were going to get to it.
They were going to get to that. And this car had been being moved around the Los Angeles hills because David had a home in the LA hills that he was living in. He's getting ready to go on tour. He's kind of a big deal among younger people, apparently. And he's one of those cats that, look, man, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm an old man. And I guess I'm tired of apologizing for being an old man, right? But this is one of those gender bending guys, right? Now, this isn't new. People have been doing this since the New York Dolls, right? Think about it. I mean, or Ziggy Stardust, right? Where you come out and you sort of bend the area between being a guy and a chick. So he wears a lot of nail polish. He does some eye makeup. Occasionally puts on some lipstick.
So does Motley Crue, though.
So does I was about to say it evolved over time. You had the glam rock, right? Of the
Killed by grunge.
Killed by grunge, but glam rock was really like the New York Dolls kind of started that, and then the hair bands of the '80s. There's a lot of those guys wearing nail polish and doing things like that. The difference was this: they were into chicks. They were pretty loud about it. A lot of chatter online says that this Neo character was romantically involved with David, and apparently David was androgynous. That's right. Adam Ant absolutely did it too, lady. See, everyone gets this. I got a smart audience. However, those guys weren't really open about the fact that they could go either way. You know what I mean? Like they were fond of women, but they were not against the chorizo, so to speak. It's a little bit different with David, right? We're not exactly sure what's going on with this whole D4VD guy, right? Not that makes a difference. I don't care what you want to do. I really don't. It's your business. But he has kind of got out of the isn't that gender ambiguous stuff a humiliation ritual, says Crucial Flow Research. You know, it's funny that you say that because you just knocked about 6 minutes off the show, which might not be such a bad thing anyway. But is this the legacy of what these guys have to do in order to become successful, right? Maybe you just go out and embrace it, right? Because there's an awful lot of research out there, and there's a lot of stuff that has come to surface, especially through the Diddy case and everything else, that you might have to give a mouth hug in order to get yourself a contract with a major label. Right, there's a lot of that goes on, and I'm not making this stuff up. Right, I'll just, you know what? I'll just play in bars. I don't really need your contract. And here's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I guess if you were into it, even if you were a guy that said, nah, you know what, guys are kind of hot. Having somebody force you to do anything is a really bad road to go down. Right, really, really, a bad road to go down. Diversity, equity, inclusion is in. Well, there's something to that, isn't there? An odd way to put it, but I dig it. Yeah, it is evil. It absolutely is evil. And it's something that, unfortunately, hey, look, man, I was completely affected by the music I listened to. I can look back on that now and tell you that that's the truth. There was a time in my life, God, I hate to say this, but there was a time in my life where on my right wrist, I may have had like 75 different wrist accoutrements made out of small rubber O-rings. Do you remember this little phase?
Stop it.
You remember this?
I do.
Yeah. Where you just had like 90 wristbands going all up and down your wrist. There was a time that I wore leather pants. I don't think that was something that I picked out because I thought it was stylish or because I thought it was cool. I was very much affected by the stuff that I listened to. And I could go off on that and do an entire huge deal. Love Cat says, look at them both. They look gay from a mile away. Slap that smile off of Neo's face. Let me tell you something. Don't worry about that. the smile is about to get slapped off of Neo's face. Neo didn't show up for this grand jury hearing. Why? Honestly, if you don't know anything, why not just show up? Walk in and go, I don't know what the deuce you're talking about.
Why? You think they're going to jam you up, you're guilty.
Yeah, you're guilty. He knows something. Now, I'll tell you something. Here's the deal. Everybody else involved in this has representation. And not that that means a shit bit of good anyway when you're doing a grand jury, but we'll get to that. But they all had representation. Most of them paid for by the same cat. Go out on a limb, Johnny Scoville. Who do you think's paying for that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, damn, you're good. David, D4VD, seems to be covering everybody's attorney in this case, but he didn't get out to Neo. Maybe he thought Neo would disappear, but Neo ain't got an attorney, right? So Neo gets arrested in Helena, Montana. And they go in and they say, hey, would you like to fight extradition? Now, if you're a convict, if you've been around the system, fighting extradition may be the dumbest thing in the entire world. Hello, waiting on an extreme ice storm. Yikes. You know what? We're waiting on an ice storm here in Ecuador as well. We'll be waiting a long time. It's never coming. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to rub that in. All right, cheap chick. I am trying to rub that in. But yeah, we don't get those here, ever. Giggity. So what's going to happen to this dude is this. He can smile his ass off for the camera. He thinks that's great. But they're going to get out there and they're going to start to lean on this dude, and he doesn't have an attorney. Now, once they get into the grand jury process, your attorney has to sit outside anyway. Grand juries, if you don't understand what a grand jury is, right, they have unbelievable powers. What you don't have is a judge. You also don't have a defense attorney. It's a prosecutor, and it's a shitload of regular-ass people who are going to listen to everything you put out there and decide whether or not there's enough there to put an indictment on somebody, right? And you have all kinds of powers. You have the ability to bring people in, question them without an attorney there. Now, they can panic and go, hey, can I step outside real quick? I want to talk to my attorney. And absolutely. Why don't you head on out there and talk to him? Then you step outside, you talk to your attorney, you come back in. That's kind of how these things work. But this cat ain't got an attorney, right? And he disappeared. He took off. He's 1,200 miles from Los Angeles, where they wanted him for this grand jury. So now they're going to bring him out, and he's going to sit in the car with the prosecutors, right? And get driven, or the investigators rather, and get driven that 1,200 miles. Maybe they put him in a plane, who knows? But they're going to transfer him back to LA. And that entire time, he needs to sit and keep his mouth shut. But that's damn near impossible. I promise you. Even if you're a stone cold gangster, that is damn near impossible, because you really want to know why they picked you up. You really want to know whether or not you're in any kind of trouble, right? So they sit there and go, hey, so how's the weather been in Helena, Montana? Oh, not bad. It's not bad. You like it out there? Yeah, good. And then they'll sit in silence for a while. And eventually that Neo cat's going to go, so, hey, am I in trouble on this? Well, I don't know about trouble. I don't think you got a lot to worry about. You know what I mean? They just want to ask you questions.
You're in trouble. I should be able to help.
Yeah, exactly. You're not in any trouble. You just need a little help. No, but seriously, they'll say to him, no, I don't think you're in a lot of trouble. Honestly, you're not. They just want to ask you some questions. Now, if you're covering for somebody, right, are you familiar with the term accessory? Because you can, and this is pretty much a rule, especially if it's a federal crime, but because I know more about the feds. But you can take whatever someone's getting for a sentence, right, and take about, like on the federal sentencing guideline sheets, knock that off about 3 levels below, and that's what an accessory after the fact is going to be. Now, if this cat knows what happened to Celeste and he wants to keep his mouth shut, they're going to scare the shit out of him. And they are going to make him believe without a shadow of a doubt that, hey, I'm glad you guys are friends, man. Seriously. And way to back your friend up. I mean, you took off. You didn't go in there. You're a gangster. Now, here's the deal. You're probably just going to get a cell right down the street from him. Right? You'll be on the same tier. You guys can hang out for the next 25 to life. It's a good thing you guys are friends. Proud of you. Proud of you. They say these guys go way back. You know what? Way back means something really different to kids than it does to adults, right? Because there was no way back in this guy's life. He didn't even pop onto the scene until about 3 years ago. So way back means what? You've known this guy for 3 years. How much time did you actually spend with him? And guess what? See, this is starting to get interesting, which is why we're talking about this case. The coroner's office, with permission from the courts, shut this thing down. They're not giving you a time of death. They're not telling you anything about what happened on this case. And they're going to stick with that, right? And the coroner's office doesn't like this. The coroner's office wants to release this stuff. Why? Because it's what they do. It's part of their process. So when they come in and mess with your process, you go, hey. Now, people freaked out about that. You know why they don't want to release this? because they got a pretty good idea what's going on in this case. There are a shit ton of people that know that she got killed and that she was in the trunk of that car. We're already seeing that come out. There's a lot of people that are refusing to show up. He has a girlfriend, allegedly. Her name is Asia. Of course, you can't just spell it Asia, Johnny Scoville, because it's not that kind of world, man. His name, David is spelled D4. No, but she threw a Y in there instead of A. Yes. But anyway, Asia has done some streaming, some IRL streaming. And in a couple of the streams, she said some stuff that ain't going to go well in front of a grand jury. One of them was, can you believe we have people confessing murder to us? Damn, the M word. So this has been a homicide investigation. Now, most people hear homicide investigation and they say, no, it's a murder, right? What's the difference? What the hell's the difference? Here's the difference. If you go out and you pass a car on a double yellow line, and in the process of coming back in and speeding, you hit a car and kill a family of 4, that's homicide. You killed someone while breaking the law. Now, it doesn't obviously rise to the level of killing a girl, cutting her arms and legs off, and putting her in the trunk of a car, right? But if there is intent to remove this person from planet Earth, it's not homicide, it's murder, right? Murder is a very different crime. So murder in a minute, just murder, right? Little Brother Blau quote there for those who got it. Snowing now, expecting ice. Tommy, this content helps take my mind off the storm, so thank you. Well, I am glad I can help, right? Because I'm Mr. Heat Miser. I'm Mr. Sun. Ba-da-ba-da. Anyway, now you've got a case that could be a murder case. Now, the coroner's office released info on this prior to it getting sealed. This is no joke. This is the truth. And there are tons of people that saw it. They made an error, Johnny Scoville, and people saw this before it got locked down. A couple of them actually got some screenshots and some info off of that. And in November of 2025, it changed from homicide to murder. Now, is that somebody that's just a little ambitious? Is it somebody that didn't realize what they were writing down? Or do they know damn well what happened to this girl? She was murdered. And people said, it's really hard to get any kind of anything conclusive if a person has been abandoned for that long a period of time. Evidence kind of goes away. Boy, it didn't take them long to say she wasn't pregnant, right? So we're not talking about a body that's been completely decomposed. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, it'd be really easy to see a baby inside somebody. If the person's 6 weeks, right, and that may not be as evident. I mean, granted, once you start cutting open a wound, but more than likely what they did was blood testing and things of that nature, which leads me to believe that toxicology is something that they could still pull off. They know a lot. If they didn't, there's no reason to seal what they know at the coroner's office. If their answer is, the hell are we going to do? It's a body. It's sitting in there. There's nothing to it, man. At this point, it looks like leather, and I really couldn't get any kind of forensic anything off of it. Then there's no reason to seal it. You can tell the world that, right? They knew a time of death. They knew how long she's been dead. They knew a lot. And what they're not trying to do is scare the shit out of everybody but David. There are a lot of people out there that they want as witnesses, not as, right, people that just want to keep their mouths shut. Now, make no mistake, this is that genre where these guys are gangsters, Johnny Scoville.
Are they?
They're gangsters.
Like the real ones?
No, nothing like the real ones. But they do like the word gangster, right? They're nothing like the real ones. The real ones take oaths, right? They take blood oaths, the omerta. You die before you tell. These are just guys that call themselves gangsters. And I promise you, when you start leaning up on a couple of them, they're going to go, yeah, David and I go way back. I've known that fool 13 months. I've spent 9 days with him in that 13 months. They're going to pull out the 9 telemeter, right? The snitching lesson, the snitch blade. It was David. I promise you the snitching is starting. And the reason that it went from a homicide investigation to a murder investigation is because somebody's already telling. I promise. And you go, well, if somebody's already telling, why don't they just arrest him? Because they still have to go to trial, right? So what do you do when you really want to be sure? Well, one of the things that you can do is bring in 2 more people to take a look at that body, experts. And I'm not talking about, well, this is a good coroner. I'm talking about this is the Babe Ruth of coroners. They have brought in 2 people. Now, they're not leaking who they are, but 2 different groups of people have come in to re-examine the body of Celeste. Now, the patently absurd, I may have seen the girl, right? Blah, blah, blah. Allegedly, a note was sent, an email was sent to one of the players in this. And this player would be, he's got a couple of handlers. One is a like a tour manager, and one is like a record label guy that works with him really closely. He might have been the guy that rented that house out there, but he got an email, allegedly, that said, hey, here's a flyer of a girl that's missing. Her name is Celeste, and she's living in that house that you're renting for David. Now, he claims he never got that, right? Never happened. That's just a bald-faced lie. Here's the problem with that, though. Allegedly, the day after he got that email, they returned her back to Lake Elsinore. Isn't that something? Odd timing, considering you did not get the information. One would assume. So Josh Marshall, David's personal manager, was renting the Hollywood Hills property where David lived. He terminated the lease shortly after September 18th, after the LA PD carried out a search warrant. He oversaw the removal of belongings, denied online speculation linking him to Celeste's death, and addressed the investigation without official statement. Here's one of the problems with that, though. This cat also said, hey, it's not my job, really, to report about anything on this guy. He made it sound, allegedly, in grand jury hearings that he might have known where the body was, but how the hell is that his responsibility? His job is just a tour manager. His job is to get this guy out on tour, right? And yeah, he may have rented the place. Want to hear something else odd, Johnny?
Tell me.
When they decided to go in there and get everything out of that house, they filmed it. And it's nothing to, I ended up watching like an hour of this film, which is boring as shit. I mean, it really was. But there was a couple of things that jumped out at me. One was they had two guys in uniforms standing out there guarding everybody. Now, I thought, they don't look like police uniforms, because they weren't. They hired security to keep people with cameras and things like that away. The stuff I saw was filmed from such an angle that you went, drone. Whoever was filming this puppy was doing it from up in the air. But they filmed all this, and they filmed them opening the garage door and pulling out a Tesla. Wow. This Tesla, though, Johnny, was red. The Tesla that Celeste was found in was black. So where did the red one come from? So I started to do a little digging. And as it turns out, this guy that all his job is to do is make sure that this guy gets on tour, he rented a Tesla for David shortly after they stopped driving the black one. Isn't that interesting? Right? So they're driving all over town, parking this black car at a place for 10 days, 7 days. Then they would move it again. And there is testimony that has come out from individuals who lived in the Hollywood Hills that said, while that car was there, I started smelling decomposing body. So we're starting to get a better idea of when Celeste may have died. There is a couple of people involved in this that are kind of fascinating. Robert Morgenroth, the general manager of David's record label, Mogul Vision, and the president of his tour company, he's considered David's former tour manager label executive, testified before the grand jury. Why didn't he call the police? It's not my job, right? Makes you a good American, doesn't it? Well, it's not my job. Enter Steve Fisher. This is a private investigator, and he was hired by the cat that owned the property, right? The cat that rented the property to David. Now, if that's your house, you might be a little freaked out that somebody got killed in your house. But he takes it the next step, and he hires a private investigator because he doesn't think that necessarily the police are doing such a great job. And maybe they're not. Because David Fisher goes in there, luminol's the whole house. You know what luminol is? It's a chemical that you spray to see if you can find blood anywhere. And they don't, right? So it might lead you to believe that this was not, the murder might not have been committed there. We don't know, right? But what we do know is this. He did come across a chainsaw, which seems like an odd thing for a rock star to buy if he lives in the Hollywood Hills. You're probably not cutting down a lot of stuff with a chainsaw. He also bought, hey, Jen Feinberg, he also bought a burn box. And a burn box, for all intents and purposes, is an incinerator that you can take up to about 1,600 degrees, which is about 300 degrees higher than that which would be needed to cremate somebody. Once again, kind of an odd purchase to have delivered to a Hollywood home. It would not be an odd purchase if you lived in at some place and you had a farm. People like to have these incinerators because it's a lot safer than having a bonfire that can spit stuff out. You just put stuff in there, you crank up the butane or the propane rather, and you get the really, really hot. And it's a box, so you just keep dropping stuff in it. This was a 50-pound box, which you could absolutely burn somebody the size of Celeste inside that burn box. It would probably be easier if you dismembered her. I mean, Not fun conversation before lunch, but she was dismembered. The amount of disinformation on this case is absurd. She was dismembered when she wasn't, then she was frozen, then she wasn't. You're right. This is absolutely the truth. And I think, with all due respect to all of the people involved in this, I think it's by design. I think they want these people thinking they're not in trouble. For real. And if you're trying to build a case, especially one where there might have been a half a dozen people that knew about this murder, they want to pick off at least 2 of them, right? If there were 8 people that knew about this, if there were 5 or 6 people that helped move that car around, right, so that they were literally moving the dead body from place to place, all of these people are involved. If you're the prosecution, you need to turn a couple of them. Get 1 or 2 of them to turn, and then you can start prosecuting all of the other ones. I would say that David's in a shitload of trouble. I really would. I would say he is in a lot of trouble. Blair Burke, David's criminal defense attorney, retained post-discovery, known for representing celebrities in high-profile cases. I'm not trying to sound like a dick, because I'll be really honest with you. If the police call me and say, we would like to talk to you because somebody apparently was vandalizing property in your neighborhood, I'm going to call a lawyer before I talk to them, because I don't trust the police. But this seems to me to be a real stretch. It would be one thing to get counsel that's famous for representing famous clients. This is not a cheap lawyer, right? He's got to pay a lot of money to get this attorney. Originally, Scott Williams, the LAPD robbery homicide captain, stated no suspect named initially due to undetermined cause of death, treated the case as a potential homicide. Alan Hamilton, LAPD deputy chief, categorized the investigation as a murder probe on November 24th, 2025, indicated accountability is coming and no one, including D4VD, David, is off of the table for who could be charged in this. I got a real problem with somebody that says, yeah, I didn't really spend any time with this girl. And then there are just tons and tons of pictures. They found an SD card that was left at the rented house. And on that SD card, they found some pictures of Celeste. In fact, this is Fisher that found it, the private investigator. He believes it's the last image ever taken of her. If that is the truth, then she probably wasn't dead nearly as long as everybody thought she was. This puts it somewhere between about 30 days from the time that she disappeared. Dr. Odie Upko, this would be our chief medical examiner of Los Angeles County, was criticized the LAPD's security hold on the case. He said it's rare, and he was really committed to transparency, but he complied. Deferred cause of death due to decomposition. There is a vested interest in keeping all of the people involved in this case from knowing what the hell you've seen. Right? This is a huge deal. You don't want everybody knowing everything that is going on, because you're going to be trying to pick these witnesses off. You'd like to get everybody scared, and you'd kind of like them to scatter. For instance, Asia, the woman that on a live stream said that someone confessed to committing a murder to her. She said some really funky shit that would make any kind of prosecutor want this girl sitting in a grand jury and giving testimony. However, she can't be found. She blew off the grand jury. They're all blowing off the grand jury, right? Now we got one of them. The reason that we're here talking today is because old Neo, the Asian, is now under arrest. They go way back, people. They go way back. Friends for a really long time. There's our boy right there. That's the Twitch streamer. He's a rock star. He's got 4,000 subscribers. He isn't rich. And you know what? His friend David, best friend, possible lover, they said that. But he's not putting out money for a lawyer for this cat, right? So that dude is spending a lot of time right now with a lot of people that really are going to have a career of knowing how to scare the shit out of people like him. Soldiering up sounds like such a great idea until you have to. I don't turn on a friend for any reason. Sounds really great until they start going, you could be looking at 25 years. They have a really great way of making you understand the trouble that you're in unless you want to become a rat. They'll say stuff like, well, there are 2 options in this case, brother. There's a reason you took off. There's a reason you don't want to come talk to us. There's a reason you were hiding in Montana. There's a reason you don't stream anymore, right? This is what you do. You're a streamer. How come you haven't streamed since July, right? How come your channel has literally 0 engagement? Well, because if you start streaming, people are going to know where you're at. It's going to be very easy for them to track you. Chicken Cherry Cola, good to see you. So they're going to say to him, you got two options in this case. Now, you can go and talk to the grand jury. You can tell them you're not going to talk to the grand jury. By law, you can say that. And then if you piss off the people involved, they can say, we're going to hold you for contempt, and you can do 30 days in the towers. And spend 30 days in general population in the towers, and this guy might soften up a bit. He doesn't look hard to me, man. And when you start looking into his background, this isn't a gangster, man. This isn't a gangster. That's right. Save yourself. The ship is sinking, and you've got a couple of options, right? And here are the options. You're going to be a witness, or you're going to be a defendant. Your boy's going to prison one way or the other. You want to go with him? We've already got some people that are snitching, and they'll drop enough details that this guy would know something about and that no one would know anything about if someone else hadn't already ratted. And I promise you, they already got one person giving them info. I promise you, these aren't gangsters. They might do gangster rap. They might, although how do you do gangster rap with black fingernail polish? But anyway, they may pretend to be gangsters. They may, live that life and talk about stuff like that. But when it comes right down to it, to be a gangster, you're going to have to go do time. You're going to have to go sit in a prison cell and not tell anybody anything going on just because it's the code. It's the code among us criminals, right? I got news for you. Whether anybody wants to believe it or not, 8 out of 10 people in the federal system cut a deal. You can look it up. There are so few people these days that soldier up and say, I'm just going to do the time on my own. I'm not going to turn anybody in. Are they intentionally confusing everything? Yeah, I do believe they are. To some degree, I absolutely believe they are. Now, on the flip side of that, I think that the LAPD are infamous for running the shittiest investigations on planet Earth. And if you interject into that fame, right? I mean, because they're bad at everything, in my humble opinion. But robbery, homicide out of LA doesn't have a great track record. And when you insert somebody who's famous in there, it clouds the water. Why? Because if David was just some punk from the street, well, he is some punk from the street. If he was some punk from the street that wasn't famous, then he's not lawyering up with a wicked expensive mouthpiece. You're going to be able to get these people in rooms and sit down and talk to them. But he's hiring lawyers for the guy that is his road manager, the guy that rented the place for him there. All of these things start to go, right? Hey, Head Creek, good to see you. All of these things start to unravel once you can start getting people to talk. It is a pretty good lesson for people that want to commit crimes. If everybody keeps their mouth shut, it makes it very difficult to proceed. It really does make it difficult. But when you got this many people involved, they're going to scare the shit out of one of them. Allegedly, his girl Asia left the country, right? Allegedly, she's in Iceland, Greenland, something like that. I can't remember exactly where she went. Norway, Finland. But she's allegedly out of the country, right? So all of these people got to know something. Super rare example, right? Yeah, Shine Barrow doing 10 years for Diddy is a rare example. However, if you can say to the person going in to do 10 years, when you get out, I'm going to give you a 4-album deal. And I can't do it with Bad Boy because I'll get in trouble. So I'll have a homeboy of mine, I don't know, L.A. Reid, will give you a 4-album contract worth millions and millions of dollars, and you don't even have to record an album. You can just take off, go back to Belize, and spend your money. Now, did that happen? I don't know. Maybe they really wanted to give him a 4-record deal, and maybe he just decided not to follow through on it. Sure as hell looks like a payout. But there was a big difference between Diddy, who at the time was well on his way to being a billionaire and a household name and all of the labels and, Sean John and Bad Boy and all of this shit that made him a powerhouse. You might want to protect somebody worth that much cash, not even for being a gangster, but just a straight business deal, right? I mean, you gotta do, you gotta do something for the next 10 years to make money. She's back trying to stream, but she keeps getting shit because she's a skank. I love my audience. I see chaos intent, but are they that smart? I'd probably go with incompetent LA police. Well, I think sealing this was a great idea. I am a YouTuber now. Make no mistake, I'm a YouTuber. In fact, last night's video is killing it. We really have done well. I need 9 more subs to hit 25,000 subscribers for the second time. So if you have not hit the subscribe button, do it. You might just be the 25,000th subscriber. Again, the system is a joke. They want us to believe everything and anything. Well, here's the deal. On this one, they're not giving us any information, and that's by design, I promise you. They're not giving us any information on this because letting the public know what's going on is a risk. This is very often when there's a murder, there might be 2 people that know about this murder, right? What if there's a murder that 9 or 10 people know about, and they're all ducking these subpoenas like there's no tomorrow? Then you get one that starts to lose their mud a little bit, right? There's one that starts to leak some info and starts telling people what's up. Now that list of people that know starts to grow. Now you're painting putting that picture together. Right now you're laying in all of the pieces of this puzzle, and it's starting to come together. Yeah, this is exactly right. And I stole this, by the way. This was not me originally, but we've always said a secret between 3 people will only stay if 2 of them are dead. And there's a lot of truth to that, right? I think that might be Ben Franklin that said that first. 3 people can keep a secret as long as 2 of them are dead. There are a lot of people allegedly that are involved in this. And the hubris of Hollywood rich, right? Look at Diddy. I can molest whoever I want. I can dangle women off of buildings. I can beat the piss out of my girlfriend in a hotel, pay off the people for the videotape. All of this kind of, we can do anything we want. We're from Hollywood. It seems to get worse and worse with each subsequent generation. Yeah, it makes it a little harder to cut a deal and turn people in. But I never had a getaway driver, right? I was the lone bank robber because I was fully, wholeheartedly committed to the idea that if somebody was my getaway driver, they would eventually tell on me. If somebody knew what I did for a living, eventually they would tell on me. This was one of those cases where, by all accounts, and this is already leaking out, that car got moved from place to place by different people. It wasn't David driving it. You're not going to get me to believe that David said, all right, listen, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go drive that car to an abandoned road, right? Make sure you got one that says, if you keep it parked there for more than a week, they're going to tow it. That way we know we got a week. Why the hell would he be doing that? If there wasn't something in that trunk they needed to hide, right? I just got a text from Johnny Scoville that said I may have driven a getaway car a couple of times. Yeah, you don't count. Your brother doesn't turn on you, man. I met the other kind of idiots in the world. But this is one of those 40 of the 118 people here have not hit the like button. Brock Benny will come to your house. You don't want to mess with him, man. Smack that like button. Hit the subscribe if you haven't. I need 9 more for 25,000. Hit the bell for notification. There's a lot of content coming out, especially over this weekend. This case is going to heat up, right? This case is going to heat up. Nowadays, good luck getting away with anything. Cameras, bingo. Trust and believe. There is a shitload, I promise you, a video of people driving that black Tesla, right? You got, hey, thank you, Flo Joe TV. This is one of those examples where it's going to be one of those deals that you're going to see odd things happening with license plate readers, with everywhere that there is a camera, there is a potential that one of these things is going to happen. Is that? Yeah, you scared me. That's Eileen, not Irene. Funny, though. I changed my notifications from personalized to all. I didn't realize it was on the wrong setting. Well, there you go, Marissa Martin. That's why I always say hit the bell for notification. Make sure you hit all. It's gang stalking. They are a gang that stalked Celeste. They did. And there's a lot of evidence that Celeste was brought home and then the Tesla would show up and bring her back. This was a guy that had a very Neo-posted bail. I'm not surprised. I'm not. And it wouldn't have been Neo that posted it, right? I am not surprised. And at this point, they're going to try to do whatever they can to lawyer him up. But you do realize that that is just as odd, right? All of these things, regardless of, and he also waived extradition and all of that jazz. This is amping up the heat on all of these people. And there's going to be a weak link. In fact, my gut says there'll be 3 of them. There is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, an arrest warrant coming. Getting ready for the blizzard in North Carolina. Crook Dixon, I'm so sorry, man. Bail was set at $60K. Now, if bail is $60K, he probably could have put up 6, right? Might have had to put up 9. But the more that David, what is gang stalking? What do you think they wanted with her? Where's all of the where are they all exploiting her, or just David? Here's the thing. You don't have to necessarily exploit her other than the fact that you're having sex with a 14-year-old, right? I mean, that's exploitation, pretty nasty. And I'd love to get into his phone, right? I'd love to see what he's got on video. But this was his girlfriend by all accounts, right? There was also, his brother alleged that he didn't know her, but now video has come out of the two of them walking backstage and shooting the shit with one another, and they're close friends. This is a bizarre situation. And the longer that it goes on, Olive Green, the more we're going to see that David was, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not a gangster. He's not a godfather, but he was the cash. This was a guy who had fame, who had a hell of a lot of money, and he had an entourage, right? This guy Neo, he's a influencer. Man, he had 4,000 subscribers. His average, no shit, his average stream had 2 digits in terms of the number of people watching, right? There weren't, thousands of people in his live streams. This was a guy that wasn't making any money. This is a guy that wasn't particularly killing it, doing anything other than being friends with David. And David had a lot of those people that hang around, right? And they all go way back, man. Yeah, he was the cash flow. It's a great way to put it. It really is. He was the cash flow. He was the dude that was making all of this happen. You follow me? And there was an entourage. And I had a feeling that when you're that dude, you say to people in the room, hey, go get some meth. Hey, go get some Molly, right? Go to the store and get some beer. Whatever you're doing, because you start to get that, right? You see it with Diddy. You see it with anybody that starts to rise up through there. Everybody, they're there for you, man. You're famous. You're the guy. And I'm sure that he had people moving the cars, and I'm sure that he had people keeping an eye on her. You think Neo was the plug? Hey, that's a possibility. There's nothing in his past. I've researched the shit out of him. There's nothing in his past to show that. All of the clips that I can see of him, he may be one of those guys that doesn't get high on his own supply. A lot of dealers are that way. But he certainly looks sober more often than not. I have a feeling that he probably had a lot of plugs. I think that there was probably a lot of people that were getting him drugs. But the fact that the LAPD, when they searched that house, did not seize the burn box is a problem for me. The fact that they didn't take that in as evidence makes me a little nervous. And it obviously made the homeowner nervous because he hired a private investigator, and it seems to most people involved, oh, David didn't look sober. You're damn right. I'm talking about Neo the Asian. But Olive says David didn't look sober. No, he didn't. And what's odd is this. So I didn't sleep last night because this thing broke and I started to get back into it. Like I've studied this case, but when cases go like this, you stop looking at them. Now, I've done true crime long enough to know that when it's really quiet, it's because good shit's happening. It's not because nothing's happening. It's because the prosecution is building their case. You're right. You always have to have a yes man around you, right? Always good to have a yes man. He had a lot of yes men. Sadly, he had a lot of yes men. And when he put a body in that trunk, magically, somebody leased him a new red one to drive around in. Why? Because the other one was a rolling casket. And a rolling casket that at some point, if he had had a brain in his head, needed to go to a junkyard and go into one of those compressors that takes cars and puts them into a little brick, because that car was never going to be able to be used again. I'm telling you, you don't get the smell of death out of an automobile. They've done shows on this. That's a smell. They can't even get them out of houses. If somebody dies in a house and nobody finds them in a specific period of time, you got to go in there and tear out the floors, the ceilings, the walls. Sometimes you just got to demolish it. I'm surprised that Neo was out so soon when it was previously mentioned there was no bond. Well, there was always going to be bond. You can't do a no bond hold on this. You can't. Now, I'm sure that one of the reasons that he's out, they are going to compel him to go in front of that grand jury now. And if he doesn't, now they can start to put a body hold on him where they can hold him in contempt if he decides not to now and throw him in jail for 30 to 90 days. I think the max they can do is 120. He doesn't look like he's got a doing time kind of disposition. You know what I mean? Take a look at this dude. I'm not trying to be a wise ass, but I've spent some time in prison. That cat right there doesn't look like the kind of guy that's got a doing time kind of disposition with the pink straps on his backpack and that, just kind of look. He doesn't impress me as the kind of guy that's going to do well locked up. And to your point, That's probably the most sober picture you can find of him. He usually looks wasted, and it's odd that he definitely seems wasted in more ways than one. There are absolutely photos of him where he looks twacked, eyes this big, looking like he's going. And I saw a video of him that he was no shit nodding out on. So maybe he's equal opportunity, a poly abuser of sorts. I'm surprised that Neo's out. So yeah, I'm not. And a lot of times, your best bet is to let somebody out and then go see where they run. For real. You know, it's they'll take you to interesting places. If you let a guy out, I promise you he's getting followed. You'll hear people say, no one knows where David is, right? From the time that this kind of really broke and they started talking about this, he did a Houdini. There's a disappearing act and no one knows exactly where to find David. Don't bullshit yourself. The cops know where David is. I promise you. Everything that he's doing, he is being followed. They are tracking every way that he can spend $1. They know where he is. I promise you they do. And a lot of really incredible evidence in cases usually comes from where they go, who they talk to, phone calls that are made. He looks a little fishy to me. He looks like a predator to me. And by all accounts, this girl was returned to her house. And then he went back and got her. And by the time she had been returned to her house, the bills, like the pictures, flyers, that's what I was looking for. The flyers with her picture on it and her age, he knew how old she was, right? I'm sorry, you're a predator. And rock stars have been doing this forever. I'm not trying to bum anybody out, but, you know, Jimmy Page, you know, he toured with a 14-year-old girl while he was with Zeppelin. This isn't debatable. This is a fact. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, the lead singer, Anthony Kiedis, in the 80s was banging Ione Skye when she was a teenager. Rock stars have gotten away with this forever. Steven Tyler, right? Same thing. The Motor City Madman, Ted Nugent, same thing. These admit it, comes out of their own mouth. This was something that you were entitled to in rock and roll. And then we've kind of grown up, right? We go groupies, you know, it's not just enough to be a groupie. If you're 14, it's a friggin' crime. Well, I think that they feel entitled to it. I think that this keeps coming back to how bad Hollywood sucks. Whether you happen to be a rock star or a television star or a movie star, you're entitled to break the law if it feels good and then to not suffer any repercussions from it. And talk about taking it to a different level. You know, there's been a lot made in the beginning about what maybe she overdosed and they decide, are you shitting me? Somebody overdoses, you call the cops. You say, hey, I've had an OD at my house. You got to get over here. In most states, you have a Good Samaritan law. Like if you're trying to do the right thing, they're not going to prosecute you for it. Right now, David wasn't a drug dealer by all accounts, right? The guy's a rock star of sorts or some kind of a star. I don't know. I mean, seriously, I'd rather go back to prison than listen to the guy's music. But the point is, someone's listening to his music. He's got millions of dollars. He's somewhat famous, right? Enough to buy a really nice Tesla, rent a nice place in the Hollywood Hills, and buy a shitload of different color nail polish, right? So the guy's doing something right. I doubt that they would have called him a drug dealer if she had overdosed. He could have said the girl was at my house. It does get a little complicated that she's underage, but you'd be in a lot better shape to do that than, oh, I got a better idea. Let's cut off her arms and legs and stick them in the trunk of a car, and we'll just keep rifling the car around Hollywood until we figure out what we want to do with the body. Somebody ordered that burn cage to the house. So at some point, they were probably considering this. Also, during the period of time that most people assume that she was in the trunk of that car, he took a road trip up to Santa Monica. How do we know that? Because he was in a friggin' Tesla. And you don't need anybody ratting on you if you have a Tesla. Teslas track everywhere you go, right? Everywhere you go. He had a ton of bottles of acetone in his home. Well, that might make sense. You know, he's pretty into nail polish. I'm sorry. If I sound like a caveman who says, you know, guys in my time didn't wear nail polish, I know that probably sounds like, you know, the toxically masculine dude. But guys in my time didn't wear nail polish. Right? Outside of maybe Poison, right? There were a couple of bands, but they were into women. They made that really clear. He has that affectation. Like maybe he just likes it on both sides. And if that's your get down, that's your get down. Whatever, right? It's none of my business. Doesn't make a shitload of sense to me. I'm not going to lie to you. Pick a side, for God's sake. There is a small chance that David got framed by the people around him, but he's too on board with the weird stuff. It's a very small chance. Well, I appreciate the critical thinking. If you really want to know the truth, I absolutely love anybody that looks at the other side. For instance, somebody said yesterday after I did my show on Nick Reiner, they said, you do know that that Jake Reiner's DNA was found on dad's body. No, it wasn't. There has been zero DNA released from that case. None, right? None. So we don't know whose DNA was on that body. If you're listening to AI stuff and they're telling you something, it doesn't mean it's true, right? For real. There's a lot of stuff out there that just bullshits the socks off you. But there is no DNA yet that we know of. Could it have been that somebody else did this and framed Nick? Could be. But somehow Nick got blood all over him and then took it to a hotel room and, left blood on the bed, left blood in the shower, left blood in the sink, right? On the floor. By all accounts, there's a lot of blood on him. So maybe I'm open to all of that. And there is a small chance, Crucial Flow. But if somebody kills my girlfriend, right? I'm probably not going to take this really well, right? This was his girlfriend. Enough to get matching tattoos, right? I'm married. I don't have a matching tattoo. His lyrics talk about the murder of a young girl. Framing him would not be too hard. You're right. You're right. However, it's my car. I'm not driving it anymore, right? Because I know there's somebody in the trunk. So if someone else killed her and put her in the trunk, why am I not calling the cops? You just killed my girlfriend and put her in the trunk of my car. Trust and believe I'm calling the cops. He knew that car was gone because he had somebody rent him a new one. So you follow me? It's, I don't know. If that's going to be a hard sale for me. That doesn't pass my my smell test, right? To frame him, for him to just be shocked and go, holy shit, there's someone in the trunk of my car. That no one's going to buy that. No one's going to buy that. He was driving around in that car. That car would have smelled really bad. That trip that he took, they're going to know that he smelled. When do I believe Celeste was murdered? Flojo, I don't even know where to hazard a guess on this. Honestly, I don't know where to hazard a guess on this. But if I had to guess, the most recent info says that they have a picture of her that they can put to sometime in September. So she might have been dead 3 weeks in that trunk, long enough to smell really bad, right? That the decomposition was kicking by that point. They did say at one point that she had been frozen and then unfrozen. There's nothing out there that actually proves that outside of content creators who have that theory or who have said that, right? Lisa Trimble says, matching tattoos don't bode well for a relationship. I tell you what, though, it certainly points to a relationship, right? That to me seems odd, right? And again, from a guy at the beginning who said, I may have met her. You may have met her. You spent a shitload of time with her, right? And by all accounts, you drove back out to her house to pick her back up after she had been returned home. And if you believe all of the ancillary stuff, we could do this for the next hour. But there was a teacher. I think the guy was fascinated by murder. There's a teacher who said, yeah, she talked to me. She knew, I knew she was with a guy named David. Everybody in her life knew she was with a guy named David, right? A couple of them have said they knew she was with a guy named David who was a musician. David's a common name. But you're 14 years old, you're with a guy named David who's a musician. I don't know, man. It doesn't look good. Do I think it was a mistake or a murder? If I make a mistake and I accidentally kill somebody, I'm not going to cut them apart and try to hide them in the trunk of my car until I figure out what the hell I'm going to do about it, right? That to me doesn't pass the smell test. And you can say, I panicked. Okay, you panicked and didn't call the cops. You cut her arms and legs off, right? That's Dahmer shit. That's honestly, I spent time in prison. So most people in their life aren't going to meet a murderer. Honestly, not have a conversation with them. I've met dozens and maybe even more than that, but I've met a lot of murderers. And I'm never freaked out by somebody that said, I lost my shit. I found out this guy was banging my wife and he had stolen all this money from my company. So yeah, I went and shot him 5 times in the head. You go, I don't know that I would have done that, but I can completely see why, right? But if they say to me, and then I cut her arms and legs off, you lost me, right? You lost me. I can see snapping and doing something that you didn't want to do. Or I can see somebody falling down the stairs at your house because she was whacked out on dope that you bought, and the neck breaks or whatever. She's obviously dead. Okay, why are we cutting her apart? That to me screams of sick bastard. And they found her in the car dismembered. Somebody dismembered her, right? To me, that screams murder. doesn't scream mistake, right? I don't think you go from I accidentally killed someone to I decided to dismember them. That's a jump in my book, man. That's a jump. And it's a jump I can't make. As a logical human being, I can't make that jump. Even if I was like, well, you know what? Look, man, I'm Tommy Scoville. I've robbed shit tons of banks. I was a gun runner. I got a long criminal history, man. They're not going to believe anything I say. My first go-to is not going to be, go get me a Milwaukee Sawzall. We're going to take this woman apart. I mean, if I'm panicking, maybe I decide to go try to do something to get rid of the body, but cutting them up, I mean, that requires a level of depravity that the average human being ain't made of. I would have much more bad dreams from the dismembering process than I've had from anything else I've ever done in my life. Why did they leave her where she could be found? It's so weird. Great question. I believe that she was killed because you cannot make many at concerts, etc. Underage kids, meal tickets. Yeah, here's my thing. They were under the assumption that somebody had the instructions to continue to move that car. There are signs up, right? The lovely Rita, meter maid, the people that drive around to make sure that parking enforcement, they're not called meter maids anymore. Parking enforcement, they come by and they put a mark on your tire with chalk. If they come by 7 days later and that's still there, they're going to move it. So they had somebody that had been moving this thing from place to place. Why? Because it stunk. And if you left it in your own driveway, your rich neighbors would have started calling the cops and saying, something smells bad. So they were working on how they were going to get rid of that body. That's my theory, right? And I think it makes sense. And somebody dropped the ball. Someone whose job it was to go and pick up that car didn't. Or one of the people that came decided to have it towed early. There were neighbors that were pissed off, but they were parking this in front of people's houses in weird places in the Hollywood Hills. And it got towed. And when it got towed to that yard, it was all over because it stunk. Someone was going to report it. That's an interesting look. Before anybody mocks this, right? Before anybody mocks this, if you don't believe that satanic bullshit runs through the entire music industry, then you ain't studied it for 6 minutes. Because there is absolutely bizarre shit that goes through that entire industry. There are some very credible musicians out there. I was watching an interview where it was this young up-and-coming rap star, and he was sitting with a really old dude, and the guy said, the old guy, I mean, like 70, and he goes, out of curiosity, man, they still take you into the back room with the master tape? And the kid gets this like panic look on his face. He goes, no, it's all good. Do they go back there, put the robes on, do all that satanic shit to the master? And you could watch. I mean, it's just, there's uncomfortable, weird shit that goes on in that industry. You're never going to convince me that people literally don't sell their souls to Satan. I'm sorry. It's just far too widespread of people that come out and say, I sold my soul, right, to get here. I did a show on this. The number of rock stars who have claimed they sold their soul to Satan is insane. I mean, and why? You're doing it for clicks? You're doing it for street cred? There are a lot of people that just go, I'm not going to listen to you anymore if you do that. It's not a great business move. It's a shit business move. But so many people have come out and said it that it just makes you wonder. And then when you hear the stuff that comes out about Diddy, right? Diddy was wearing black robes and doing creepy shit. He was wearing red robes and doing creepy shit. What, it's not enough to molest people? You got to do it in some kind of a ritual fashion? Why? Because it's cool? Because it'll make for a greater story later? No, because this is that industry, man. This is that industry. A person like this has no conscience, or do they? Well, that's a really interesting. That's a really interesting question, right? We're all born with a conscience, in my opinion, right? Can you have your conscience beat out of you? I did, right? Seriously, if you had met me at 16, 17, 18, 19 and told me I was going to steal from people that I loved, told me I was going to rob banks, sell guns, right? I would have looked at you and gone, you have bumped your freaking head. But you do enough heroin and you realize that you need $700 a day to not get sick, and you will sell your soul, right? Literally. Now, I didn't do it for Satan. I sold my soul for heroin. And fortunately, that's one you can get back, right? Eyes Wide Shut, Bohemian Grove, right? These are all really creepy shit that is real. Like, we know that this stuff exists. Why? And it sure as hell does in rock and roll, right? How about I sold my soul for rock and roll, right? We take this stuff for granted. But if you do research on it, you can also find out that rock and roll changed at one point. They started using different frequencies to get different effects, right? We hum at certain frequencies. Now, I'll tell you something right now, people. I don't listen to any new music. Does that mean that the old stuff isn't, doesn't have that stuff in it? I don't know. But I don't listen to new music because I'm so disgusted by the industry. And the only reason that I listen to the old stuff is it does evoke emotions, right? If I'm feeling really bad, the song "Life's Been Good to Me So Far" by the Eagles or by Joe Walsh, depending on how you look at it, but that song can pull me out of a depressed mood instantly. That's the real power of music, and it absolutely can do that. I can put on, the hits from the 80s and instantly be, I'll have a mullet and I'll have acid wash jeans on. I'll be wearing something by Gerbeau, and this is real. It takes you back to a time and a place where you feel different. But what if they're going in the other direction? What if that's not what they're trying to get it done with the music, right? Because there's some dark ass shit out there that that I don't know. I can't listen to once. And I'm not trying to bag on any particular music. I will. How about Marilyn Manson? Marilyn Manson's got some songs out there that the lyrics to, there's nothing good that can come from listening to that shit. There just isn't. Not all music is bad. It's the intention behind it. No, I don't think all music is bad. Your son is detoxing from that 7OH. I'm expecting him to call me often this weekend. Any advice on what I should tell him? If he's in the process of detoxing, the more you can talk to him, the better. What you can tell him is this: he's going to reach a point where he's going to think to himself, I don't need to do this. I can make all of this stop if I just go and get more stuff. And it's just going to continue again and again and again. It's not going to stop, right? It's the number of times that I made it to the second or third day and then said, screw this. Where if I could have just gone 48 more hours, it would have been out of my system, but I could not bring myself to stay quit, right? Tell him to focus on God. You tell him, Holmes. More conspiracy theories. Can't believe these sheep believe this nonsense. You tell him, man. David, right? Not guilty. This guy knows, man. This guy knows. No, he can stick around. Absolutely stick around. So he's not guilty. He just ended up with a dead chick in his car, right? A 14-year-old dead chick in his car who he has the same tattoos as, who he told the world, I really don't know the chick, man, right? Yeah, maybe she was around at some point. You know how many photos there are like this? You go ahead and delude yourself, my brother. If it makes you feel better, I'm not pissed at you. Now, you do me the same favor. Don't get pissed at me, right? Doesn't pass the smell test. But that's the beautiful thing, right, about people that drink the Kool-Aid. It's called truthy. No amount of fact is ever going to make it otherwise, right? No amount of fact will make it otherwise. But you know something? Hey, man, I was a pretty big fan of the Grateful Dead. Maybe if Jerry Garcia came out in 1988 and instead of having a diabetic coma that year, they said that they found a dead chick in the trunk of his Mercedes, maybe I would have immediately gone to the guy's defense. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. His parents are uber religious. How can they vouch for him after learning of these dark stuff about him? Parents don't, they're not good at turning their back on kids. Thank God, right? I mean, we want parents to stand by kids. That's a pretty healthy thing. We'll see whether or not, how this pans out, man. So why don't you give me some stuff that would clear him, my genius brother, right? Do me a favor. Tell us how he's cleared of this. Explain in your theory. There's nothing that ties him to this. No evidence that ties this to him, other than the fact that there was a dead girl found in the trunk of his car. I don't know how long you've had a driver's license, bro. I'm going to guess maybe not 30 years or so. But you got a Tesla, and you don't know how a dead body got in the trunk of it? I would imagine that someone had the keys to that car. So you're driving it around for all that time, and you don't find anything in the trunk. You do, however, decide to go get you a new lease on a very similar looking car, only this time it's red, right? No evidence whatsoever. She just magically got placed in that trunk. You're going to watch, bud. You're going to get to see all of the evidence. But I respect it, bro. Keep running with it, right? No evidence. There's nothing linking him to the crime. There's a dead body in the trunk of his car, bro. That's linking him to the crime. Now, you can say it's a setup. Somebody put him there. I'm not talking to gullible people. I'm talking to people, if I went out on a limb, I would say are 2 or 3 times your age. If it was direct evidence, he would be locked up. No, I'll tell you what, it's coming, doggy. It's coming. He would be locked up. If what you're saying was true, it wouldn't go through a grand jury. Now I'm going to have to call you an idiot and have somebody block you because you're just plain stupid. Of course it would go through a grand jury. You think they arrest people and you're going to have to go in front of a grand jury to be brought up on those charges. If you got 9 people that are refusing to talk to anybody, and we already know that Neo refused to talk, right? Asia has refused to talk. There are a bunch of people that have refused to talk. So you have a grand jury to do the investigation process. Kind of how it works in the good old US of A. But I'm sure you knew that. It's what makes you fun to have around. And she spent at least 41 days in that trunk. I'm not sure that they can document that. I'm not sure they can document exactly how many days that she spent in that trunk. Right? But she definitely was in that trunk long enough to start smelling bad. And somebody cut her limb from limb. David didn't do it, that not guilty guy, right? Can you explain, when he found out her age, he sent her home? Really, how do you know this? So you're here telling me that I'm just spilling stuff out. Do you know this cat? Did the two of you hang out? How do you know when he found out her age? And how do you know when he sent her home? Because I'll be honest with you, sounds to me like you're just a cat that drank the Kool-Aid. You're a fan, and you can't stand the fact that this guy might have whacked this chick, right? Who cut off her arms and legs and got her into his car without him knowing about it? Who drove around in that car? He took that road trip to Santa Barbara, right? He took that road trip. He was in that car. She stunk by that point. He didn't know though, right? He didn't know. He thought that smell, he probably hit a dog. That's what probably hit a dog. I'm smelling that. Man, I start smelling that shit. I'm searching my car, but that's me, right? I'm not a youngster. I'm an old man. And I am a convicted, right, felon. Spent a bunch of time in prison, spent a bunch of time around murderers. And this case stinks, brother. And you're going to find out that your boy's going to get arrested. That's what the grand jury is doing right now, man. The grand jury is putting together a case, and they're going to arrest this cat. He knew how old she was. Guaranteed she knew how old he was. Yeah, absolutely. Not guilty people don't do this shit. Yeah, I mean, there you go. This kind of sums it up, right? Look, he lawyered up before anybody even burped. He got the best defense attorney he could for famous people who have been accused of this kind of stuff. If you're not guilty, you don't do that. You go in and you cooperate fully with the investigation. You go in there, you talk to him. But to say, if your first go-to is, I didn't know who this chick is, right? He found out how old she was. Miss me with that shit. Miss me with that shit. You spend a year with someone who says they're of college age, right? They're not going to school. They're not doing anything. You got a pretty good idea. And then an email gets sent to your road manager that is just a picture, right, of the flyer. This girl's 14. They bring her back. She managed to get all the way back to poor David, right? According to everybody at the house, she was picked up in a black Tesla. Did she steal that car, drive all the way down there, get the car, drive up to her house, get in it and drive away? Hey, look, man, I'm glad that you're drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm glad this is your favorite artist or whatever the hell it is. Hey, get you some nail polish remover, get rid of the black fingernails, right? Come out, listen to some AC/DC, get your head in the game. Because honestly, you're not going to like how this finishes up, and it's going to make you look like as big a jackass as him. It's one thing, right? It's one thing to be a fan. When you're a fan and the person that you are that you're defending is a pedo, it's not a good look, right? When he found out her age, he kept banging her. When he found out her age, he brought her backstage to concerts and introduced her to all of his friends. They got matching tattoos, bro. He knew her age. Come on, man. Come on, man. And just a creepy bastard. He was making coffins for the new upcoming show, making them personally, right? Making T-shirts with bloody handprints all over them. Now, admittedly, if you did it all with blood, it would turn really dark brown very quickly. The lookalikes are bizarre, right? They really are. Lookalike chicks that look just like Celeste. And look, I don't make a ton about the music videos and all of that, but there are music videos of him putting bodies in trunks, right? There are people that worked with him that have already said, hey, we weren't close, man. We weren't close. There are people that know to distance themselves. This David, the pedo, isn't guilty guy. Apparently, he's not one of them. He's a creep, a pedo, a murderer, and a coward. Not sure how he still has fans. Well, he's got one. And apparently that guy just left because I don't have any wrenches here. So I'm guessing he just bailed. I don't think a wrench got rid of him. And he would have been fun to keep around, right? It's funny when people say stuff like, as soon as he found out her age, he got rid of her. Where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from? Oh, because you're a fan, right? Well, some of us have spent 60 hours looking into this. There's nothing out there that proves that garbage, but go ahead, run with it. I'm telling you, it'll make you feel better, man. It would make you feel better. And now if you're just thinking, this old man is such a square, he doesn't know shit, I'll make it easier for you. Hey, if this was one of the Bee Gees, I'd be bummed out too, man. I'd probably be defending him. If this was Billy Joel accused of this, it would be tearing my heart out, right? But it's not. I wouldn't be listening to people that had 14-year-olds dismembered in their trunks. You feel me? Sorry, people. So we're going to be covering this trial. Got to make my friend, hey, if the name of your channel is David Ain't Guilty, everybody should lawyer up and nobody should ever talk to the police without counsel, innocent or guilty. I agree with you 100%, brother. 100%. I agree with that. However, you don't need to hire the best criminal defense attorney that covers only murders, right? You really don't. You can hire a $1,000 attorney to go in and say, he's not going to talk to you if I'm not present. But this dude went out and got the best of the best and hired him not just for him, but for everybody else, right? Keep coming back, brother. Whatever you do, don't leave. Seriously, catch my next show. I want you here. Bring your evidence. Tell me what you come up with. Because I'll tell you what, maybe you can explain this to me. Maybe you can explain to me why he rented a Tesla exactly like the one that he had in red right after the body of Celeste got put into the back of that black car. Because that's how the timeline adds up. It's his car. Do you think he thought, hey, my car disappeared. My car started making a knocking sound. I'm rich. I'm not going to get it worked on. I'll just lease another one, a red one this time. No, he knew that body was in that trunk and it was stinking. And he needed another car to ride around in because he can't be driving that one without getting busted. Doesn't make any sense, bro. And if it's somebody else that did this and is framing him, he didn't go, where the hell's my car? Why do you guys keep parking my car in different places? And if somebody else framed him, tell on him. This is America. You're soldiering up for somebody that tried to blame you. That passes the smell test? Come on, my brother. You're smarter than that. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just a fan. Maybe you're just a fan. Nothing wrong with that. The word fan comes from the word fanatic, right? But you know that as soon as he found out how old he was, he returned her instantly to her house. Of course, everybody there says when she left the next time, she was picked up in a black Tesla, matte black Tesla. Sure, there's a lot of those around, right? Could be a coincidence. Very well could be a coincidence. And then that black matte Tesla dropped her off at David's place. She kept coming back on her own. That 14-year-old kept driving herself back down there. Doesn't check out, does it? She didn't have the ability to take herself places. No, she needed a pedo to come pick her up. This popped up on your screen. Someone was arrested. Yes, somebody was arrested. This is a friend of his, Neo the Asian. He's a Twitch streamer with 4,000 subscribers, made about $5,000 on Twitch. But somehow they're very, very good friends. He spent a lot of time hanging out with this guy. Jerry Santos. The way he's defending David, I'd like to see his search history. Only a pedo would. To defend my new friend here, he doesn't necessarily have to be a pedo. He could just be a guy that loves the dude's music. I'll tell you right now. Look, you want a perfect example? I'm defending our guy here for real. I hate hearing about artists that you love, right? That end up becoming creepy. It's a hard thing to hear. Kevin Spacey's one of my favorite actors. But I can say I love Kevin Spacey's art. I will continue to watch the movies that he made because I think he's a really talented actor. I also think he's a creep, and I wouldn't have him at my Thanksgiving dinner table because I think he's done some creepy shit. And it's sad because he keeps getting found not guilty of it, which means his career got killed in spite of the fact that he keeps being found not guilty. And that to me is a depressing thing, and it's part of our legal system. It is what it is. But he would not be invited to my house for Thanksgiving. You can't just blindly accept somebody because you like their art. That's a bad habit to start getting in. It's an easy thing to do when you're in your 20s. If you're still doing it in your 30s, you need some help. If you're doing it in your 40s, you are a creep. Hi, Tommy. It's 10 degrees and expecting 11 to 5 inches here in Oklahoma. Boy, better you than me, Cliff Ann. I am not missing 10 degrees, and I'm not missing that kind of snow either. Right? How dare you creeps feel you have the right to do this to a 14-year-old girl? It's a pretty legit comment, isn't it? Kevin Spacey was my favorite actor too, but I can accept the fact that he's a creep. Same with James Franco. James Franco's even creepier. I'll be honest with you. James Franco's really a creep. I'm having a hard time even enjoying James Franco's work anymore. He's really creepy. But look, man, people are going to disappoint you your entire life. The only thing worse, right, is being a sycophant. The only thing worse is being a guy that says, I don't care, man. Listen, when he gets convicted, I'm still going to be the person out there saying he's not guilty. If you're still here and listening, look up the Charles Manson case. And I mean, look it up. Actually look into it. And look at the people that stood out in front of the courthouses with swastikas or crosses carved into their face. The family, right? Some of those people are still professing that, he's innocent and that he's God. There are people that can follow people like that off the edge of a cliff. I don't think it makes you particularly intelligent. I really don't. But free thinking is a beautiful thing, man. Check it out, right? Do some critical thinking. Ask yourself, if that were my Tesla, how would a girl get put in the trunk and kept there long enough to stink? How would she be dismembered and then brought to my Tesla? You would have to assume she got cut up somewhere near that Tesla, right? Come on, bruh. She never lived with him. Okay, good. He's got it all figured out. Listen, do me a favor. Leave your contact information. I'd love to have you come on the next show. You obviously have a much better handle on this than I do. Your research is obviously exhaustive. Why don't you come on and educate all of us idiots? I'm serious. So when I end this, put your contact information in there. Put any way that I can get a hold of you, and we'll have you come on, and the two of us can do this. I will interview you because you seem to know a lot of information about this. You know how long it was after she found out the age, when she took off. So was it her cousin in downtown LA that had the black Tesla that went and picked her up from her house? Because that's actually on tape, right? That wasn't David's Tesla. It would be interesting to know whose it was. How did she keep getting back to him? She never lived with him, huh? Never lived with him. It's fascinating. Really is. It's fascinating. Now, by the way, if you're right, that means nothing to me. Nothing. You're banging a 14-year-old. I don't care where she's spending the night, right? Why'd they get matching tattoos? It's almost like you were there, right? It's almost like you were there, says Sickly. And, who knows? Hey, man, not mad at you. I'm not. But you want to talk about lemmings, right? You're a sheeple, bro. You're a sheeple. You're hearing this stuff and you're believing it, right? The grand jury's just, they convened the grand jury for no freaking reason. We'll see what happens, man. She will see what happens. She was from Elsinore, California. Yeah. It's interesting. They spent a shit ton of time together. There's a lot of pictures of the two of them together. Whether she lived there or not, I'm pretty convinced he was banging her. And that's disturbing enough. It really is. That's disturbing enough. The fact that an adult spends time with a 14-year-old, and you can say as soon as she found out how old she was, look, I said in the beginning, she definitely looks older than 14. She doesn't look like an adult. And if you had a conversation with somebody 14, they're not going to sell themselves as an adult. In fact, with all due respect to you, I have a feeling if we had a long conversation, I could probably tell you how old you were over a telephone. It's pretty easy to determine how much life experience someone has. And if David or D4VD couldn't figure out this girl was underage by the conversation he was having with her, then he's worse of a freak than I thought he was. This is a guy that wanted to be with a 14-year-old because that kind of entitled bullshit goes along with anybody that thinks they're famous. Maybe they picked her up as a human sacrifice. Was the group a coven? I don't know. They're strange as shit. I mean, they really are. They're definitely not my kind of music, but that's sort of the nature of rock and roll as it evolves, right? They wouldn't call this rock and roll. They'd call it something else. Who knows? But whatever happens, look, the guy's innocent. Why did his tour get canceled? I wouldn't have canceled my tour. I wouldn't have. I'd have gone on and said, I didn't do shit, man. This is absolutely a frame up. He is absolutely incommunicado. Guy hasn't made a fart sound since this happened. Nothing looks weird about that, right? All of his friends are disappearing to the four corners of the earth so they don't have to go talk to a grand jury because they got nothing to hide. Yeah, checks out. Definitely checks out. That red Tesla rental checks out. All of this stuff does. Buying a burn cage, buying a chainsaw. That was for a music video, right? They got it delivered to the house, not to a studio or anywhere else. But that was for a music video, right? Checks out. Seriously, it all makes sense. All right, people, we're going to wrap this one up. Don't pick on my friend. I want him to come back to the next one. And I'm not joking, man. I'd love to have you on the show. Sounds like you might know them personally. If not, you're a chronic bullshitter. But it does sound like you have a pretty good handle on exactly what was going on there. I don't want to find out you're into 14-year-olds, though, bro. Scaring me a little bit. Between now and the next time I see you, people, listen, if you're going to research this, please talk to our friend. He seems to have a handle on this. I am Tommy. I will check you out on the next one. Between now and then, put a little love in your heart. And don't believe the hype. Smack that subscribe button on the way out, right? With everybody I just defended from David's circle, I've probably lost a shitload of subs. If we're trying to hit 25,000, I will catch you on the next one. I'm Tommy. God bless.